gave Bronny a shot tonight. And if I'm just being 100 with y'all, I just felt the pace was just a little too fast. He didn't look comfortable out there to me. I'm just gonna be 100. You know what I mean? But I as a fan watching the game, I appreciate him giving Bronny a shot just to kind of see where he was at, and maybe he'll get another one. You know what I mean? But
if you notice, Joe, when he comes in the game, what do everybody try to do? Pick him up 94 feet.
Yeah.
They try to pressure him. Because it's one thing to bring the ball up at Sierra Canyon. There's another thing to bring the ball up at USC. But when you got those elite guys, and it's like, you know what? If you look at him, they are on him the moment he gets the ball. They're pressuring him 94 feet. And like you said, Joe, he's going to have to get comfortable. The only way you're going to learn how to play in meaningful games is to get your ass out.
That's it. And look,
Joe Johnson said what a lot of people have been thinking for a long time. He looked right at Shannon Sharpe and made it plain. Bronny does not have the full handle, the full bag, or the full comfort level to be getting real minutes in a serious game right now. That is the heart of this whole story. Not hate, not drama for no reason, not people trying to attack a young player just because of his last name. This is about what people saw with their own eyes. Bronny got on the floor. The speed looked too much for him. The pressure got to him fast, and the coaching staff pulled him after a very short run. That moment told the truth better than any speech could. And when Joe Johnson spoke on it after the game, he did not sound shocked. He sounded like a former player who knew exactly what he had just watched. The reason this moment got so much attention is because people are tired of acting like they are not seeing what they are clearly seeing. When Bronny checks into a game, especially a game with pressure, the talk around him becomes bigger than his actual play. Every move gets covered. Every minute becomes a headline. Every little run on the court becomes some huge talking point. But when you strip all of that away and just focus on basketball, the question is simple. Is he ready for these minutes or not? Joe Johnson answered that in the most direct way possible. He said the pressure was there, the defenders were on him full court, and if you do not have a real strong handle and a real deep bag, that pressure will expose you. That is not personal. That is basketball. What made Joe Johnson's comments hit harder is that he was not even trying to disrespect Bronny. He was not yelling. He was not clowning him. He was not trying to go viral with some wild take. He was just breaking down the game the way real players do. He talked about pace. He talked about comfort. He talked about how defenders test younger guards, especially guards they do not fully respect yet. That is one of the oldest truths in basketball. If a team thinks you cannot control the ball, they will pick you up high. They will crowd you. They will bump you, make you turn, and force you to start the offense late. They will make every dribble feel heavy. That is what happened. And when Joe said Bronny does not have that kind of bag yet, he was pointing right at the issue that showed up on the floor. Shannon Sharpe tried to frame it in a more hopeful way. He made the point that the only way to learn is to get out there and feel it. He argued that real growth comes from live reps, from being thrown into the fire, from making mistakes and then learning from them. And to be fair, there is truth in that. A player does get better by playing. A player does need experience. A player does need to see what playoff pressure feels like. But there is another side to that. Experience is important, but minutes still have to be earned. Development matters, but so does the level of the game. There is a difference between learning in a safe spot and learning in a game where every trip matters. That is where this debate gets real. Because a player can need reps and still not deserve those reps in that moment. That is why Joe Johnson's point landed so well. He was not saying Bronny can never improve. He was saying that right now, in this version of Bronny's game, the skill set is not where it needs to be for important minutes. And that is what many fans have been saying from the start. The problem is, whenever some people say it, they get called haters. They get told they are being unfair. They get accused of going after a kid. But if a former NBA player sits there and says the same thing, suddenly it becomes harder to dismiss. Joe Johnson knows what playoff pressure looks like. He knows what defenders hunt for. He knows what weak spots look like when the game speeds up. So when he says the handle is not ready and the bag is not there, people listen differently. The bigger issue here is not even Bronny by himself. The bigger issue is the machine around Bronny.
You know these Rocket players, Uncle Ocho, they done took Ime Udoka's personality. hey, these some little tough, hard head jokers. So they picking him up full. You talking about Holiday picking up full, Tate picking up full, a Kogi picking up full.
Yes.
So listen, if you ain't got no real handle, no real bag, you're gonna look uncomfortable, partner. You know what I mean? That's just kind of what it was. But from a fan perspective, when I'm watching the game, I'm glad he threw him out there because that's the only way you're gonna learn, bro. You gotta throw him out there in the fire.
That's it.
And you know what, Joe?
Ocho, you know what happens? You bring your third, your fourth receiver. The two starter guys, they might.
That is what makes people frustrated. If Bronny were just another young player trying to find his way, the conversation would be much calmer. People would say he needs time, he needs work, he needs reps in the right places, and that would be the end of it. But because he is LeBron James's son, the story gets pushed harder than the production. The attention comes before the proof. The praise comes before the consistency. The headlines come before the results. And that creates a backlash. Not because people enjoy being negative, but because fans do not like being told to ignore what is obvious. If the play does not match the hype, eventually the hype starts to feel forced. That is where a lot of the tension comes from. Bronny is not just being watched as a young player. He is being sold as a special story. Father and son, legacy, history, big moment, great scene. And from a human point of view, sure, people understand why that story gets attention. It is a rare sports moment. It is emotional. It means something to a lot of fans. But once the game starts, the emotion has to step aside. Basketball does not care about storylines. The defense does not care about a family moment. The score does not care about the last name on the jersey. When the ball is live, it becomes about who can play, who can settle the game down, who can take care of the ball, and who can survive pressure. That is why the fairy tale side of the Bronny story keeps crashing into the reality side of the Bronny story. And to Bronny's credit, none of this means he is lazy. None of this means he does not work. None of this means he should quit. That needs to be said clearly, because people love to turn every basketball point into something personal. A player can work hard and still not be ready. A player can train every day and still not have the level needed yet. That is normal in sports. Hard work matters, but hard work alone does not make someone ready for top-level minutes. Talent matters. Feel matters. Confidence matters. Experience matters. Strength matters. Shot creation matters. Ball control matters. All of it matters. So when people say Bronny is not ready, that is not the same as saying he does not care. It just means the level of play is exposing the gap between where he is and where he needs to be. That is also why the phrase, "he has no bag," hit so hard. People know exactly what that means. It means he does not yet have enough tools with the ball. It means he cannot create enough space on his own. It means when the defense gets into him, he does not yet have that smooth answer ready. Great guards have counters. If you pressure them one way, they beat you another way. If you shade them left, they go right. If you crowd them, they split it. If you trap them, they read it quick. If you back up, they rise into a shot. That is bag. That is comfort. That is command. When Joe Johnson said Bronny did not have that, he was saying the young man does not yet have the kind of answers that serious defenders force you to show. And once that point is made, another question comes right after it. If he is not ready, why is he even in that spot to begin with? That is where the LeBron angle always comes back into the picture. Because no matter how much people try to avoid it, that is the center of the story. If Bronny had a different last name, would this push still be happening? Would people be talking about playoff minutes this much? Would his short run in a big game even be treated as headline news? Most people know the answer, and that answer is the reason this topic keeps growing. Fans do not like fake fairness. They do not like when everyone pretends that a player got the same path as everyone else, when it is clear he had a stronger spotlight and a bigger push because of who his father is. Now that does not mean Bronny asked for all this pressure. It also does not mean he created the media storm around himself. In many ways, he is caught in the middle of it. He is young, he is trying to grow, and every weak game turns into a giant debate because of the name attached to him. That is hard on any player. But at the same time, the truth still has to be the truth. People cannot be expected to lie just to protect feelings. If the game is too fast, it is too fast. If the handle is not strong enough, it is not strong enough. If the minutes are not deserved yet, they are not deserved yet. The mistake many people make is thinking honesty is cruelty. It is not. In sports, honesty is part of growth. Sometimes the cleanest thing a former player can do is say exactly what the camera showed. What I think Joe Johnson did in that moment was bring the conversation back to real basketball. He took it away from fan emotion and media noise and put it back on the court. He basically said, look, when defenders pick you up full court and make you uncomfortable, they are telling you what they think of your game. They are saying they do not believe you can beat pressure. They are saying they think you will panic, waste time, or turn it over. That is a challenge. And until Bronny proves he can beat that challenge, teams will keep doing it. That is how the league works. Weak points do not stay hidden. The moment opponents smell one, they attack it again and again. That is why those 3 minutes mattered. They gave people a quick but clear picture of what the defense thinks Bronny can and cannot handle right now. Another thing people should notice is that Joe Johnson did not say Bronny should never play again. He did not close the door on the kid. He simply said the game exposed him. That matters. Because there is a difference between saying a player has no future and saying a player is not ready right now. Too many fans hear criticism and instantly jump to the most extreme reading. But real basketball talk lives in the middle. A player can improve later and still be overmatched now. A player can have potential and still not deserve key minutes. A player can be worth watching and still not be worth forcing into the spotlight every single time. That is the balance people need to bring back into this topic. The problem is that balance disappears whenever LeBron is connected to the subject. Once that happens, every basketball point becomes a loyalty test. If you question the situation, some people act like you are attacking LeBron as a father. If you question Bronny's minutes, some people act like you are rooting against a young player. If you say the media is pushing the story too hard, some people act like you are bitter. But none of that changes the basketball. The game still tells the truth. The floor still tells the truth. The speed, the pressure, the foul trouble, the turnover, the short leash from the coach, all of that told the truth. And then Joe Johnson came in after the game and said out loud what many people had already concluded. This is why the strong reactions from fans feel so strange sometimes. Good players do not need this level of defense. If a player is clearly producing, no one has to beg the audience to believe it. No one has to turn every fair question into an insult. The game answers for them. Their play shuts people up. Their skill wins the argument. That is how it always works. But when the conversation around a player becomes louder than the player's actual impact, fans start to push back. They start asking why they are being told to celebrate something that has not yet been earned. That is where Bronny's story is right now. The push to make him feel bigger than his current game is creating more criticism than his current game would create on its own. And let's be honest, this is also about standards. The NBA is supposed to be the top level. Playoff games are supposed to be even harder. The standard is not supposed to bend because a story sounds nice or because a last name is powerful. If another young guard came into a meaningful game, picked up 2 fouls, turned it over, looked shaken by the pressure, and got pulled in under 4 minutes, the talk would be blunt. People would say, he is not ready. That would be normal. So why should it become off limits just because the player is Bronny? The standard cannot change when it is convenient and then return when it is not. Either the minutes are earned or they are gifted. Either the player is ready or the player is not. That is the part people keep circling back to. At the same time, there is a fair path forward for Bronny if everyone would just calm down and let it happen the right way. He needs time away from the giant story. He needs room to build real confidence. He needs to sharpen the handle, improve under pressure, read traps faster, and become stronger with the ball. He needs the kind of reps that teach without turning every mistake into a giant online event. That is how young guards grow. They grow through work, through film, through hard minutes, through failure, and then through better answers the next time. None of that growth needs fake praise. None of it needs huge speeches. None of it needs fans pretending he already is what he has not yet shown. In fact, that kind of fake support can slow growth down because it hides the real problems that need work. What made this whole moment powerful is that Joe Johnson looked like the one person at the table who decided not to play along with the soft version of the story. He did not say, well, maybe in a perfect world, this means something magical. He did not act like the experience itself was enough to celebrate. He looked at the details of the game and called them for what they were. Bronny looked uncomfortable. The pressure bothered him. The pace was too much. The defense targeted him. And if you do not have the handle and the bag to answer that, you should not be getting those minutes yet. Simple, clean, direct. That is the kind of basketball talk fans respect because it sounds real. Shannon Sharpe, on the other hand, sounded more focused on the lesson Bronny could take from it. And again, that is not fully wrong. There is value in hard lessons. There is value in being out there and feeling the level. But people do not just want life lessons from these moments. They want honesty about whether the situation made sense in the first place. And that is where Joe's voice stood out more. He sounded like someone judging the game. Shannon sounded like someone trying to protect the story. That is why the clip spread so fast. Not because Joe screamed, not because he disrespected anyone, but because in a room where people often soften things up, he said the hard part plainly. In the end, this whole topic comes down to one rule. The court does not care who your father is. It does not care how famous your family is. It does not care how nice the story sounds on a TV segment. Once the game starts, every player has to answer the same question. Can you handle this level or not? On that night, the answer looked clear. Bronny was not ready for that kind of pressure. Joe Johnson saw it, said it, and gave the audience a straight basketball view without all the extra noise around it. That is why his words hit. They cut through the image and got straight to the truth. So if people are upset, they should ask themselves what exactly they are upset about. Are they upset because Joe Johnson lied? Or are they upset because he said the part out loud that many people were trying to dance around? Because those are two very different things. If the issue is honesty, then the clip should not bother anyone who truly loves basketball. Honest talk is part of the sport. Honest talk is how players get better. Honest talk is how standards stay real. And if Bronny wants to become the player some people hope he can be, then the worst thing everybody can do is keep acting like he is already there. Right now, he looks like a young player still trying to find his base at a very high level. There is nothing shameful about that. The shame comes from forcing a bigger image on top of a smaller reality. The shame comes from making every fair point feel forbidden. The shame comes from trying to pressure fans into saying more than the game is showing. Joe Johnson did not do that. He respected the game enough to tell the truth. Bronny is not there yet. The bag is not there yet. The comfort is not there yet. The minutes should not be automatic. And until the game starts showing something different, that is the real conversation people should be having.